Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. In Nagorno-Karabakh, ethnic Armenian authorities say 51 more soldiers have been killed in fighting with Azerbaijan's troops. This brings their total military death toll to 480 since the fighting broke out on September the 27th. According to the authorities, at least 25 civilians were killed and more than 100 wounded in the clashes. The United States has urged the Taliban to immediately stop their offensive in Afghanistan's Helmand province. In a tweet, Commander of the Allied Forces, General Scott Miller, said the violence undermines the ongoing Afghan peace process. The Afghan government has claimed killing 71 Taliban fighters in response to attacks in Helmand province. Bangladesh has approved death penalty for rapists amid nationwide protests in the wake of a series of gang rapes. The decision was made after a video of a gang assault on a woman went viral on social media. India has reported the world's highest 816 COVID-19 deaths and nearly 67,000 infections overnight. India's death toll has exceeded 109,000, with the case load crossing 7.12 million. Here in Pakistan, 10 more people lost their lives to the virus, raising the death count to 6,580. Globally, the coronavirus has claimed over 1,075,000 lives and infected more than 37 million. In Belarus, the Interior Ministry has allowed the police to use lethal weapons in the streets. The ministry said the reason behind the move is the radicalization of anti-government demonstrations. Earlier, security forces detained over 700 protesters after clashes with police in Minsk. In the National Basketball Association finals, the Los Angeles Lakers beat Miami Heat 106-93 to capture a record-tying 17th NBA championship. The Lakers sealed the best-of-7 title series 4-2 thanks to a triple-double by MVP LeBron James. Those were the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Ethnic Armenian authorities in the Nagorno-Karabakh region say 51 more soldiers have been killed in the fighting with Azerbaijan. This brings their total military death toll to 480 since the fighting broke out on September the 27th. According to authorities, at least 25 civilians were killed and more than 100 wounded in the clashes. On Friday, Russia brokered a ceasefire between Azerbaijan and Armenia, but it couldn't last longer. The two sides accused each other of targeting civilian areas. Earlier, Azeri President Ilham Aliyev said he does not know when talks with Armenia will start. The fighting has surged to its worst level since the 1990s, when some 30,000 people were killed. The United States has urged the Taliban to immediately stop their offensive in Afghanistan's Helmand province. In a tweet, a commander of the Allied Forces, General Scott Miller, said the violence undermines the ongoing Afghan peace process. He said the U.S. forces conducted several strikes in the last 2 days to defend the Afghan forces in Helmand. The Afghan government claimed to have killed 71 Taliban fighters in response to attacks in the province. Earlier, the Taliban said they overran a checkpost in Nangarhar province, killing 17 government soldiers. Violence in Afghanistan has increased since the warring sides started direct talks in Doha last month. U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Mark Milley says the American troops' withdrawal from Afghanistan remains conditional. Milley said the Pentagon has a series of options that have been communicated to the U.S. President. In an interview, Milley said Doha deal clearly mentions a conditions-based withdrawal from Afghanistan. Milley added the U.S. is trying to end the war responsibly and deliberately. He said, but it will do so on terms that guarantee the safety of the U.S. national security interests. He stated the number of American troops has already been reduced and will be brought to 4,500 very shortly. Earlier this month, President Donald Trump called for a total withdrawal before mid of December. Indian troops have murdered 2 more civilians in occupied Kashmir, raising the toll to 8 in the last 3 days. The occupying troops targeted the youths during a cordon and search operation in the Srinagar district. The operation was going on till the last reports came in. The killing of the youths triggered anti-India protests in the Rambagh area of the Srinagar city. Meanwhile, Pakistan has strongly condemned unabated Indian state terrorism and extrajudicial killings in the valley. In a statement, the Foreign Office said Indian forces target innocent civilians in fake encounters. It called upon the international community to take full cognizance of the aggravating situation in the occupied valley. Occupied Kashmir has been under New Delhi's crushing curfew and communications blackout for the past 435 days. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says the world is no longer buying the Indian narrative on occupied Jammu and Kashmir and terrorism. Addressing a ceremony in Islamabad, Qureshi said this became possible after Pakistan's successful efforts to counter negative perceptions. He said India is trying to link Kashmiris' just struggle for freedom with terrorism. The Foreign Minister said a strategic communications division has been set up at the Foreign Office to fight the global battle of perception. Iran has criticized the International Atomic Energy Agency chief's remarks on Tehran's nuclear activities. Iran's representative in Vienna, Kazim Gharibabadi, said Rafael Grossi's remarks are self-drawn. He said criticism over producing a significant quantity of enriched uranium is irrelevant to IAEA's mandate. Gharibabadi also expressed concern over 1,300 tons of highly enriched uranium and 300 tons of plutonium worldwide. Earlier, Grossi said Iran continues its nuclear enrichment activities more than what it committed. Greece says Turkey's move to carry out seismic surveys in the eastern Mediterranean is a major escalation of tensions. The Greek Foreign Ministry says Athens calls on Ankara to reverse its decision. This comes after Ankara directed its ship ALEXEI to carry out seismic surveys near the Castellorizo Island for the next 10 days. Maritime Notice says 2 other vessels will also continue work in the area. Last month, Ankara withdrew ALEXEI from contested waters to allow diplomacy ahead of a European Union summit. The 2 countries have conflicting claims over hydrocarbon resources in the eastern Mediterranean region. Bangladesh has approved the death penalty for rapists amid nationwide protests in the wake of a series of gang rapes. In an interview, Law Minister Anisul Haq said the president will issue an ordinance tomorrow, making it a law. There was widespread outrage in Bangladesh last week after a video of a brutal gang assault on a woman went viral on social media. 8 men were arrested after the video emerged. In a recent report, a human rights group said nearly 1,000 women were raped in the first 9 months of the year. The Belarus Interior Ministry has allowed the police to use lethal weapons in the streets. The ministry said the reason behind the move is the radicalization of anti-government demonstrations. On Sunday, Belarus security forces detained over 700 protesters after clashes with police in capital Minsk. Police used water cannons and batons to break up crowds demanding a new presidential election. Incumbent President Alexander Lukashenko has been under pressure to step down over allegations of vote rigging, but he denies any wrongdoing. India has reported the world's highest 816 COVID-19 deaths and nearly 67,000 infections overnight. India's death toll has exceeded 109,000, with the caseload crossing 7.12 million. Globally, the coronavirus has claimed over 1,075,000 lives and infected more than 37 million. More in this report.
The COVID-19 disease continues to spread, with its second wave on the rise in many parts of the world. Europe has overtaken the US, India and Brazil in daily new cases. Italy is considering new restrictions nationwide as infections climb. France is facing another challenge, as a study shows over half of its nurses are close to burning out amid surging workload. Adding to the hysteria, new Australian research has shown that the virus can survive up to nearly a month on glass surfaces.
Another important factor is that we still don't know what an infectious dose is. So even though we were able to recover infectious virus up to 28 days, that may not be enough to actually cause an infection. But I think the key message really is to wash hands where possible and sanitize your hands with an alcohol-based disinfectant often.
South Korea's new cases tally has jumped again, just as the officials eased social distancing restrictions in the country. China's Qingdao city has announced plans to test each of its 9 million residents after recent escalation of cases. Meanwhile, country's active move to join COVAX has been broadly welcomed by many international bodies.
China is stepping forward. It is an exercise in global leadership, and it is very much welcome. And I hope it signals to other countries that the opportunity to join in such a global partnership is there.
Latin America's confirmed COVID-19 cases have exceeded 10 million, with Brazil continuing to be the hardest hit in the region.
In Pakistan, 10 more people have lost their lives to COVID-19 during the last 24 hours, raising the death toll to 6,580. The health ministry said 385 people tested positive overnight. The ministry said there are 8,552 active COVID-19 cases in the country. It said out of over 319,000 countrywide cases, more than 304,000 have recovered so far. The ministry said over 140,000 cases have been detected in Sindh province so far. Well, Punjab has reported more than 100,000 cases. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has lauded Australia's management of COVID-19 outbreak. Khan said this in a telephone conversation with his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison. Both the leaders discussed bilateral matters and other issues of mutual interest. Khan highlighted global health and economic challenges posed by the pandemic. He said the smart lockdown strategy adopted by his government led to significant containment of the pandemic in Pakistan. Prime Minister Morrison also hailed Pakistan's positive role in the Afghan peace process. The two leaders invited each other to visit their respective countries. US President Donald Trump says he is ready to travel and campaign after recovering and testing negative for COVID-19. Trump said he will not be a transmission risk to others. In an interview, Trump said he passed the highest test and is in a great shape. The president said he is no longer on medications for the coronavirus. Taking a jibe at Joe Biden, Trump said he no longer needs to hide in the basement like his opponent. After making a claim in the interview, in a tweet, the president again said he is now immune to the disease. The social media platform flagged the tweet, saying Trump's claim violated the rules. The warning label indicates the tweet had misleading or potentially harmful information related to COVID-19. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In Tajikistan, President Emomali Rahman has been re-elected for a fifth term after securing 90.92% of the votes. Opposition Social Democratic Party boycotted the polls over laws it says ensure re-election of President Emomali Rahman. Constitutional changes passed in 2016 allowed Rahman to run for office an unlimited number of times. All the four competitors were viewed as token opponents and have avoided criticizing Rahman. Russian allied Rahman has been running the Tajik nation for 9.5 million people since 1992. Northern Cyprus's president and prime minister will go to a runoff next week after each won about 30% support in Sunday's presidential poll. The election council said Prime Minister Ersin Tatar won 32.5% of the votes, with results counted from 723 out of 738 stations. It said incumbent Mustafa Akinci secured almost 30% in a field of 11 candidates. Akinci supports reuniting the Mediterranean island, while Tatar backs separate sovereign administrations. Cyprus was split into two after a 1974 Turkish invasion in response to a brief Greek-inspired coup. Turkey recognizes the Turkish Cypriot state in the north, but not the internationally recognized Greek Cypriot government. The latest UN-mediated peace negotiations failed in 2017, and there has been no progress in talks since then. The UN has welcomed Libya's National Oil Corporation's decision to resume production at the country's largest field. In a tweet, a UN Libya mission says the development is a result of the improved security situation in Sharara oil field. It said the unimpeded exploitation of Libya's oil resources and effective management of the revenues is a shared national interest. The mission stated the decision reflects the constructive atmosphere created for intra-Libyan military and political talks. The UN will hold face-to-face talks between delegations of the 5+5 Joint Military Commission in Geneva beginning on the 19th of October. Earlier, the NOC said it has reached an agreement with forces loyal to Khalifa Haftar to end all obstructions at the oil field. Amnesty International has called on the UN Security Council to take urgent action against Myanmar in the International Criminal Court. In a report, Amnesty said evidence shows Myanmar army is committing grave human rights violations in the country. It said there are no signs of the conflict ending. Several incidents involving civilians injured or killed by the army have been reported in Chin and Rakhine states in recent weeks. The EU has backed a Franco-German plan to impose sanctions on Russians suspected of poisoning Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. Germany and France made the proposal at a meeting of EU foreign ministers in Luxembourg. They say Moscow has failed to provide a credible explanation over the findings of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. The chemical watchdog had confirmed the presence of the banned Soviet-era nerve agent Novichok in Navalny's body. German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas said the poisoning could not remain without consequences. Western governments and NATO have urged Russia to help the probe. In France, nearly 40 unidentified people have tried to storm a police station in the Paris suburbs. Police posted the video showing assailants armed with metal bars and fireworks trying to forcefully enter the station. The motive for the attack is not yet clear and nobody has been arrested as yet. The police station is located in an area known for drug trafficking. Since the end of the lockdown, a spate of criminal incidents across the country has put the government on heightened alert. In Vietnam, the death toll from floods has risen to 23. Officials say the incoming storm Nangka will dump more heavy rain on the country in the coming days. State media says 14 people remain missing in the central provinces due to the floods. The National Weather Agency said storm Nangka will make landfall in northern Vietnam on Wednesday. Nearly 46,000 people have been displaced and more than 109,000 houses submerged so far. Vietnam is prone to destructive storms and flooding due to its long coastline. 11 African migrants have died when their boat sank off Tunisia in Mediterranean. The boat was en route to the Italian island of Lampedusa. The Tunisian Coast Guard says it has rescued 7 people and searching for the other missing people. Rescuers said they have recovered the bodies of 8 women and 3 children of the coast near Sfax city. They said some 30 people had set out on the boat aiming to reach Italy. Last year, about 90 African migrants drowned after their boat capsized en route to Europe from Libya. A total of 390 illegal migrants have been rescued off the Libyan coast over the last 2 days. The International Organization for Migration said migrants, including women and children, have returned to Libya. The agency said its teams are present at the disembarkation points on the coast to provide emergency assistance in such events. Earlier, the agency said in 2020, it rescued over 9,000 illegal migrants. The organization also said 196 migrants died and 275 others went missing on the central Mediterranean route this year. U.S. economists Paul Milgram and Robert Wilson have backed the 2020 Nobel Prize in Economics for their contributions to auction theory. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences said they introduced theoretical discoveries that improved how auctions work. The economists also designed auction formats for goods and services that are difficult to sell in a traditional way. Milgram and Wilson, professors at Stanford University in California, were given the prize money of over $1.1 million. China has successfully launched another remote probing satellite for ecology, agriculture, and surveying purposes. State media said the Gaofen 13 will provide early warnings for upcoming natural disasters and assist in relief operations. China has been developing telecommunication satellites as well as moon colonization technologies to ramp up its space program. Earlier in August, it also launched its first Martian research project. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says remittances from overseas Pakistanis have risen to $2.3 billion in September. In a tweet, Khan said this amounts to a 31% increase year on year. The Prime Minister said compared to August 2020, the amount is 9% higher. Khan added this marks the 4th consecutive month that remittances have remained above $2 billion. Earlier, Asian Development Bank said Pakistan's economy may grow at a pace of 2% in the current fiscal year. It said economic sentiments improved with the resumption of structural reform in the country. China and Cambodia have signed a free trade agreement to promote bilateral economic ties. In a statement, the Chinese Commerce Ministry said under the agreement, both the countries will offer tariff cuts on each other's products. It said the agreement covers a wide range of sectors, including trade, tourism, and agriculture. China's State Councillor Wang Yi and Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen attended the signing ceremony. Wang said mutually beneficial cooperation between Beijing and Cambodia maintains a great momentum. The agreement marks Cambodia's first free trade agreement with any foreign country. U.S. stocks are trading higher as investors monitored stimulus negotiations in Washington and prepared for a busy week of corporate earnings. Apple provided the biggest boost to the 3 main stock indexes with a 3.7% gain ahead of a special event on Tuesday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is trading 0.5% higher. The S&P 500 is up by about 1%, while the Nasdaq Composite is trading higher by about 1.5%. Meanwhile, oil prices fell as force majeure at Libya's largest oil field was lifted. Most European stocks are trading higher as investors are tracking overnight gains in Asia on the back of strong Chinese data. The Pan-European Stock 600 has edged higher with telecoms and autos adding more than 1%. The CAC 40 in Paris has advanced marginally. Frankfurt's DAX 2 has edged up fractionally. The FTSE MIB in Italy has managed to claw a fraction above the flat line, but London's FTSE 100 has dipped into negative territory. In the National Basketball Association finals, the Los Angeles Lakers beat Miami Heat by 106 to 93 points to capture a record-tying 17th NBA championship. The Lakers sealed the best-of-7 title series 4-2 thanks to a triple-double by MVP LeBron James. James hooped 28 points, 14 rebounds and 10 assists while spearheading a defensive that doused the Heat's offense. Speaking after the game, the NBA All-Star called for racial justice and an end to police brutality against Black Americans. The victory has tied the Lakers with the Boston Celtics for most NBA championships. South Korea's Kim Se-young has surged to her first major title with a victory at the Women's PGA Championship in Pennsylvania. The world number 7 began with a 3-shot lead and posted 7 birdies to finish at 14 under. Kim had 10 wins entering the tournament, but without a major championship, 7-time major winner Inbee Park's bogey-free 65 ensured second place. Britain's Charlie Hull posted a second successive round of 69 and shared 7th at 1 under. And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.